Hello, welcome to the Scroll Ensemble Improvisation channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're enjoying our improv videos. In this video we are going to do something you could do with any variation piece. A while back we did a video on Beethoven's Swiss Song Variation set, and you can watch that video here. In trying to be a Beethoven student, we wanted to see what would happen if we took Beethoven's approach to this Swiss melody and used the same approach on another melody. And we decided to take a melody which Beethoven also wrote variations for, namely the third movement in Beethoven's third sonata for clarinet and bassoon. So without looking at the original, we took the melody and started improvising. I will talk about each variation very shortly here, so you get a sense of what we did. A more detailed discussion can be found on Patreon. In the Swiss variations, the first idea is to apply triplets in both parts. In the second variation, the bass is the soloist and the top part just plays the original melody. The next variation is in minor. The melody in the clarinet and bassoon piece actually changes from major to minor in the original. So we decided to change at that same place from minor to major in the minor version. Do you think it worked? In the fourth variation, we return to major and the idea of the bass as soloists, but in triplets. So this is similar to the second variation, so you get a sort of mirror image in form. Variation 5 is interesting because the two parts in the Swiss variations really interact. And this was quite difficult to do because when improvising, it's hard to know who will start when and for how long. So, improvising at the same time also increases the risk for mistakes between ourselves, so we had to find a way of doing that. Variation 6, as we pointed out before, is to a great extent about contrast. And this was a lot of fun to do. As you can hear in the full version on YouTube here, we derailed quite a bit. But it was so much fun that we decided to just take this version. Because also it never got that contrastful and playful after that anymore. And it would be super interesting to see what would happen now if we were to do this in a concert situation where we couldn't do it a few times. So there's really the sense it has to happen now. In our first try, we mostly followed the order of ideas that Beethoven had used in his Swiss variations. But then we thought Beethoven wouldn't just repeat himself like that. So we did a second version, trying to remember Beethoven's Swiss variation ideas as options. This posed an interesting problem. A variation generally has a particular character throughout, and also from the very beginning. So how do you start that character from the start without knowing what it will be? I think we managed to sense that from each other quite well, which was a bit surprising to me. Although, of course, on the other hand, it's true that we were still basically working with only 6 options. It did bring another type of concentration in the room, though. Finally, we were, of course, very curious to see to what extent any of what we had done resembled what Beethoven had written. And this is perhaps the moment to note that it's not the point to get it right, but to learn from the differences and perhaps develop what we did differently as our own style of variations. Well, anyway, you can hear for yourself that we were very far off. Except for a triplet variation and the idea of keeping parts of the melody intact without variation, there was not much similarity. On Patreon you can hear our first version in full and a short discussion of the clarinet and bassoon duo. Support us there so we can keep making videos. And thank you so much for watching and any other support you can give us.